A bearded man went on a stabbing spree at a rally against Islamic extremism in Germany last weekend. Let's not jump to conclusions about the motive though. He could have been an Amish extremist. Hey, they're due a turn. One of the victims was a policeman who initially appeared to have tackled a bystander instead of the man with the knife. There was some wild speculation on the internet about why the policeman did this. Some people said he'd been on diversity training and might be worried about looking culturally insensitive if he intervened in a traditional Islamist ritual, but apparently it was because the bystander punched someone who's tackling the knifeman, so in the chaos the policeman was responding bravely and appropriately. Unlike some female police officers who were filmed running away from the incident. I can't show it here, but you can check the full version of this video on my Patreon. So it was a tragic farce all round, and the policeman has now sadly died, but it was nothing out of the ordinary. These incidents are pretty regular in Europe. What really stood out to me in this was the headlines, which show the extent of establishment media bias. Police officer dies after attack at anti-Islam rally in Germany. Police officer stabbed during attack at far-right rally dies. Anyone reading these would assume that the police officer was killed by a far-right anti-Islam protester, not an Islamist. And the target of the attacker, Michael Sturzenberger, is smeared as far-right, as if it justifies the attack. But what's far-right about opposing Islamism? To be clear, the rally wasn't against Islam as a religion, it's against political Islam, where society's laws and governance are structured around the diktats of the Quran. This is how countries like Iran and Afghanistan are governed now that they've been colonised by Islamists. And the people who organised this rally think that it's a good idea for Europe to stay free from this kind of thing because it's terrible. In Iran, young people have been protesting against Islamism after a young woman, Mahsa Amini, was beaten to death by Islamic morality police for not wearing a hijab. Are they far-right Islamophobes? If anything, the stabbing demonstrates that the people organising the rally, suggesting that Islamic extremism is violent and undemocratic, kind of has a point. The killer wasn't far-right at all. Suleiman Ati was an Afghan Islamist who came to Germany in 2013 and applied for asylum. His claim was rejected the next year, but he stayed on living illegally in Germany before apparently receiving a residence permit after fathering a child with a German citizen. He had a YouTube channel, now deleted, featuring a Taliban flag in his profile photo and videos of terror preachers. The media treatment of the stabbings is interesting. Across Europe, media blurred the face of the attacker, but compare this to the treatment of young people who've been filmed singing Auslander Raus or Foreigners Out to the beat of the song L'amour toujours by Gigi D'Agostino, which prompted a frenzy of media coverage across the country, with top politicians condemning the young people and calling for the maximum sentence. Maximum sentence for what? Singing a song? The faces of the young people who'd sung this song were not blurred, despite not being found guilty of a crime. They were identified, fired from their jobs, and subjected to grueling character assassinations and hate on social media. It's the desperation of the left-wing establishment clinging on by its fingertips. Europe is tilting to the right, and what's interesting is we're seeing young people support right-wing anti-immigration parties. They see the creep of communist authoritarianism in the establishment under the guise of net zero and hate crime laws, and they see their culture and identity being erased to enable Western countries to become banal economic zones with open borders, keeping labour costs down for the businesses funding establishment politicians. To stifle dissent, the establishment tries to neuter right-wing parties such as Germany's AfD by prosecuting politicians, stings and smear campaigns. And we repeatedly see right-wing figures targeted with violence. Earlier this month, 2 AfD politicians were attacked in Stuttgart. It's not just politicians. Anyone who criticises Islamism is a target. Pim Fortuyn and Theo van Gogh were both killed as well. This happens with the tacit approval of the left. They know the violence suppresses dissent. They'll trot out the usual excuses of right-wing politicians bringing it on themselves, or lone wolves, or mental health, or the real problem is far-right extremism, i.e. anyone who isn't a communist. By denigrating anyone on the right as a Nazi, the media encourages violence against them. Last year saw 86 violent attacks on representatives of Germany's right-wing AfD party. That's more than on any other party, according to official statistics. The perpetrators often endorsed left-wing extremism. Just a few days after the fatal stabbing of the police officer in Mannheim, another politician was stabbed in Mannheim. And of course, the establishment media have smeared the victim as far-right, as if it excuses the attack. This time, the attacker was a far-left extremist who, according to witnesses, tore down election campaign posters before attacking the politician, although this has been denied by the police, who said there are no concrete indications that the suspect realised the victim to be an AfD politician at the time of the attack. Yeah, I mean, he'd just been tearing down posters with the picture of the victim on them, then attacked the guy on the posters, but clearly just a random attack. Jesus Christ, I'm not exactly seeing Poirot levels of deductive capability here. I couldn't trust the establishment and legacy media less if they told me they had pills that would make my dick grow by 6 inches. They're willfully encouraging and excusing attacks on right-wing politicians. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this video, you can buy me a crisp German Pilsner on the links below, and consider becoming a Patreon for exclusive content, Zoom gigs, and stuff like that. Okay, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kears. Bye. Bye bye.